this is an interesting test. Tunnel. Sold! Sold! Take my money and take me to paradise, baby. This is the vehicle. Sell your kids, sell the house, bribe the accountant, whatever it takes. You need one of these.
So hello and welcome back to the appropriately named Quarantine and Cars with Mr. JWW. Don't get me wrong, that's a tongue-in-cheek title, but I think it is all too appropriate for what's going on in the world right now. This is the second episode of a out-of-the-box thinking content plan because as the UK and the rest of the world is right now, we're all isolated, quarantined and locked in our homes. And on that note, I hope that everyone looking at this right now is happy, healthy and looking after each other. So, on to the next bit of insight and information into one of the more popular videos that I ended up filming back in 2016, I think this was. Yeah, so I have now uploaded 534 videos to the Mr. JWW YouTube channel. In that time, there's been some real standout videos, and the idea of this series is to relive those moments, but not just replay them, but to really provide some unknown and untold stories which happened either on set or how the filming came about, or just some really interesting details. Now, of all of the content that I filmed, something that always gets mentioned over and over again in comments or when I bump into people at events who tell me their favorite content, this video here, the first time that I drove the McLaren 675LT Spider, very often comes up in conversation or comments. Now, this is quite an appropriate time to talk about this video. Little do people know that this is the first video that I filmed after falling really severely ill after Gumball 3000 in 2016. Now, it was nothing to do with Gumball, it's just the timing of it. We ended up in Bucharest in 2016, and after what was a really intense rally of me driving all day, filming all day, editing all night, having really late nights, and then waking up really early and doing it all over again, my body basically just went, that's it, time out. Doctor told me that my immune system dropped by the time that I had reached Bucharest and I picked up a really nasty, wait for it, virus. So, those following weeks that preceded Gumball 3000 saw me in hospital. I had IV drips going on. I actually slept downstairs at home because I didn't have the energy to walk upstairs. Don't worry, I will get onto cars and why this video is important shortly. And it was at that time, I remember sitting on the sofa. I was kind of taking YouTube semi-seriously at that time, but I was also working a different job alongside that. And I remember sitting on this sofa thinking, man, what I would give right now to just be out there filming cars like I used to be doing. And this is about 3 weeks into me being ill. And I kind of remember that being the pivot point, really, of me deciding to take this sort of full-time and seriously. I knew from then on, when I eventually got better and got back on my feet, that I was going to plot and plan a way to leave the 9 to 5 and end up doing this somehow full-time. And the first video and the first invite that I got when I got back on my feet was actually from McLaren for the launch of the 570 GT, not this car at all. Now, the significance of this was it was a 5-hour plane journey away in Tenerife, which is a volcanic island. And the launch and drive of the 570 GT saw myself, some fellow YouTubers and other journalists drive the 570 GT up the active volcano in Tenerife. To this day, it's one of my all-time favorite drives. It was the first time that I'd been to Tenerife, and I was blown away by the quality of the roads out there. I mean, I'm not sure if this is doing it any justice. I mean, the look on my face right there is more to do with the accelerative punch in the gut that is the 675LT. But anyway, it was just this combination of me getting better, just about, and I shall share more behind the scenes which you didn't see on this video shortly. So getting better enough to be able to basically go back out in the world and catch a flight, start filming again, and then discovering the incredible mountain roads and volcanic roads that were out there in Tenerife. Now, just a few hours before that launch was over, I was about to get on the transfer to go from the hotel to the airport when McLaren told me that my flight had been severely delayed. So there I am, coming off the back of a fantastic launch for the 570 GT, feeling on top of the world, albeit fairly ropey. You can probably see there how long my beard was and how long my hair was. I just hadn't looked after myself for basically a good 5-week run up until this point now. I'm just starting to get better, and I'm sat there, and Wayne Bruce, who was head of PR at that time, he walks over to me in the foyer of the hotel and goes, "Look, your flight is delayed for a long time. We just so happen to have a McLaren 675LT Spider parked out front. Would you like to take the keys and just go and have a drive?" So I was thinking, that would be fantastic. The roads out here are amazing. I have no agenda now. I can just go and experience it and drive it. So this video, first of all, I wasn't planning on filming it. It was just why don't you go out there and kill some time. So I filmed this entire video with the DJI Osmo and a GoPro Hero 4. And if you really look at these shots, that's all it is. It's front-facing GoPro, back-facing GoPro, and some fairly trick shots on the DJI Osmo. I left all my other camera gear in the hotel thinking I'm not going to have time, or I'm just really going for a fun drive, so let's just wing it. So I get in this 675LT, and I'm not even kidding you. I am half a mile down the road in this car, and everything was just so, it was the first time I'd experienced a 675LT, never mind a coupe. And at this point, the launch drives which had happened for 675LT were quite small. McLaren didn't seem to make a very big deal of it, and I don't think at that point I'd really been hit by the significance of just how amazing this car is. So I get in this car, and everything about it, just the first few meters you roll and turn in the wheel, you've got an amazing sense of connection and feel and feedback through the wheel. When I pulled the upshift to change up, and I was around about 6,500 RPM, and around about that rev range, when you pull on the upshift paddle, it makes this whip crack.
And on the upshifts, these cracks you get on the upshifts are pretty special. See if we can replicate one now. Wow, so cool, so cool.
And it was just theatre within the first mile. And I remember rolling out of this hotel, I was a mile down the road, and I experienced insane thrust, incredible front end turning and grip. The roof was down, so I'm hearing all of the sounds of this car. And I remember hitting the brakes for the first time hard, that massive aero brake coming up behind me and just assisting with massive stopping force. And I actually stopped the car. I'm a mile in, I stopped the car, and I just sat there for 30 seconds. I was like, what is this? This thing feels motorsport. Like, it just felt so entirely different to any other product that McLaren at that time had out there. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to let this slide. I'm going to go out there and try and film the best video I can with the two cameras I got. A GoPro Hero 4, which is basically a potato, and a DJI Osmo. And this is what I ended up putting together. Now, when I say this was an impromptu, completely off-the-cuff, unexpected video, that's how last minute it was. It was someone from PR going, there's the keys, go and have fun, resulted in this. So the reaction you're seeing here is genuine first-time reaction to me driving and experiencing a 675LT for the first time. Now, just winding back to me recovering from being ill, and I shall share some footage shortly. Pretty much through every sentence, I'm coughing my guts up, and it's something you really don't see in this because I managed to chop it out and edit it and splice over some B-roll. Every time I would cough, I would chop it out, stick on some B-roll, cough, chop it out. I mean, I was really still getting back to normal. At this point, I mean, crikey, I was probably about 80% better.
Excuse me. I need to come up with a word. Sorry. I need to come up with a word. Good God. God, it's bringing up my phlegm. This is... God.
But still, I was still, getting over it. I was weak, I was coughing, and the edit of this took me so long because there were so many splurts and just interruptions from me recovering from this illness, which no one ever saw. But combined with this utter euphoria that not only had I got back to life and got back to being half normal, but also I discovered the boundaries that McLaren had pushed in a road car that wore number plates. It was just this miraculous experience. And so the enthusiasm and what has since become sort of this micro-famous reaction to a first drive in a car was 100% genuine and was 100% last minute, blank canvas, go and try that. So yes, that's how that came about. Now, off the back of that, I remember sitting on the aeroplane on the flight back being, first of all, how have I never been to Tenerife to experience the driving roads? To be completely blunt, in the UK, and I'm not sure how it is in the rest of the world, in the UK, our association with Tenerife is cheap holidays. Like that's about it. It's got sort of all year round sunshine because it's so far south, and it's generally the sort of package deal holiday location. So never in a million years had it crossed my mind that there's a volcano there, which probably leads to there being some great roads. So first of all, I was like, I need to go back there with my own cars or some more cars. As the case would have it, I didn't return to Tenerife for 3 years following that, and I was there in November, just gone, with Audi, driving the RS Q8, which was fantastic. I just never imagined that I would be back there in a SUV. And the other thing, I was sat there thinking, what have McLaren created here? I was so blown away. I'd driven 570 up to that point. Obviously, I just stepped out of 570 GT. Also on that drive, I also back-to-backed the 650S, and I was blown away by that until I jumped into 675LT, and it just recalibrated my whole brain as to what's possible with a road-going supercar. And those of you guys who followed the channel at that point and since know that that definitely turned out to be the most expensive press drive that I have ever been on. Because I scrambled and saved a deposit to try and get a 675LT at that time. I ended up with one, not a Spider, a coupe. I did 10,000 fantastic miles in it. And despite the fact that sometimes McLaren has a bad rep for reliability of their cars, I have to say the 675LT that I had did not skip a single beat for the 10,000 miles which I had it. There was one point where the horn had Tourette's and it would just beep every now and again, but it turned out it was because it wasn't locked properly. But other than that, it was just an incredible thing. Now, I ended up selling that car. You know, I am sad that I don't have it. You have to move on. Sadly, I can't keep adding cars to a stable until business picks up a bit. But, you know, in terms of the memories which I've had with a car as a result of just happenstance, also that car as well really led to some really formative content for my channel. It really formed the backbone of the first year that I took YouTube full time. So it was a really important car. And we also, I mean, I took that on some monumental road trips. I'm not sure if you guys were subscribers at this time, but myself, Paul Wallace from Supercars of London, Sam from Seen Through Glass, and Seb Delaney, we all went on this sort of southern Euro trip, hopping from Monaco to Rome via Corsica and Sardinia, in order to make the McLaren 720S launch. And I thought it would be incredible to take the 675LT down, meet the 720S, which was its successor platform, to find out what they were like back to back. And now here we are, a few years later, and we've just come off the back of McLaren launching their new 765LT. Now let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. If McLaren has sprinkled the same magic Woking dust on the 765LT as they did on the 675LT, we are looking at one of the most incredible driver's cars to roll out of Woking, that's for sure, which puts it as one of the greatest driver's cars of the modern era. Now, I don't want to put that forward just yet, but that is literally what we're staring down the barrel of. Now, of course, right now, everything has been put on pause. The McLaren factory has actually been closed and shut down, as have pretty much every other car manufacturing plant in the world because of coronavirus. So everything's on hold right now, but the idea was that we were going to be experiencing and having the first drive of the 765LT this year. And so I thought, here's some wishful thinking. Maybe if the virus clears enough that we can get back on to driving cars towards the end of the year, I thought it would be a good time to replay this, refresh your mind with that experience. If you haven't seen this video, there's a link below. Go and check it out because it was one of my most favorite driving moments, and judging by the interaction from the audience, it is also one of yours. So if you haven't seen it, I implore you to go and check it out because it really was one hell of a memorable occasion. And that's it for the second episode. Now look, this is me effectively winging it. I am just trying to come up with content that I think will fill this isolation, quarantine, virus gap for us while I can't go out there and share some seat time and some real cars with you. So please, I would love to hear your comments and feedback below as to what you think of the format, how it can improve, and importantly, what other videos you would like to see me provide some behind the scenes insider information on, which might be favorites of yours on the channel from years gone by. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it in this important time of lack of content. No doubt as well, you guys are hopefully thankful for the escapism that YouTube provides at this time. So if you're happy with it, please give it a like, give it a thumbs up. Please be sure to subscribe, and I shall see you next time on Cars and Quarantine. Ciao.